Shavua Tov, a gute Woche, and welcome to our program. Shabbos is Tesvov Oder Rishon, which means Shushan Purim Koton. And on Friday was Yudaled Oder Rishon, which is Purim Koton. This reminds us of Purim Koton Tovshin Nun Beis. Purim Koton Tovshin Nun Beis, the Rebbe gave out a Kuntreisim, the famous Kuntreisim, like in our parsha Ve'ato Tetzaveh. In this Kuntreisim, you can see it was in a plastic, and that had, this is the Kuntreisim, as you can see. This is the Kuntreisim that the Rebbe gave out. It was in a plastic. There were $2 also in the plastic. Also in the plastic was a piece of honey cake. And I must tell you, whoever saw this, and everybody saw the piece of honey cake, and they said there is something, what's this honey cake all about? Honey cake, Shushan Purim Koton, why the honey cake, which nobody understood. There is a story that goes with it. The story that goes with it is that Monday, Yud Gimel Oder Rishon, Tovshin Nun Beis, and we're talking about Tovshin Nun Beis, the sensitive year. This Kuntreisim was printed. This was on Monday. Next morning, on Tuesday, Purim Koton. After Shacharis, the Rebbe went to the Ehel. Before the Rebbe went to the Ehel, the Rebbe told Rabbi Groner that he wants many, many more thousands of Kuntreisim, of these Kuntreisim, to be printed today, so that when he comes back from the Ehel, he will give out this Kuntreisim. Now, this idea that the Rebbe said that they should print more Kuntreisim, and the Rebbe is going to give out the Kuntreisim, this had very, very broad knowledge all over. And Chassidim knew that tonight the Rebbe is going to give out this Kuntreisim. And therefore, to Ma'ariv, when the Rebbe came back from the Ehel, there were thousands of people in 770. After Ma'ariv, the Rebbe said a Sikha for 12 minutes. After that, the Rebbe gave out this Kuntreisim. The Rebbe gave out 8,000 Kuntreisim. 8,000 Kuntreisim to men, women, and children who came from all over to get the Kuntreisim from the Rebbe. Now, one is going to wonder, why did the Rebbe give out these Kuntreisim on Purim Koton, on the first Purim, which was then on a Tuesday? The simple explanation that the Rebbe saw that come Purim, the real Purim, Purim Godel, which means in a month, the Rebbe will not be in the condition to give out a Kuntreisim, or for whatever. This is why the Rebbe foresaw this, and the Rebbe gave out the Kuntreisim on Purim Koton, which is Yud Daled Oder Rishon, just 12 or 13 days before Chof Zayin Oder Rishon. One can also imagine, what was the Rebbe thinking, inasmuch as that is impossible for us to know, when the Rebbe was giving out the Kuntreisim. The people who were accepting the Kuntreisim saw that this is another Kuntreisim that the Rebbe gives out. Baruch Hashem, the Rebbe gives dollars, and the Rebbe gives Kuntreisim from time to time. So now the Rebbe is giving a Kuntreisim with $2, with a piece of lekach, which nobody understood why. However, there was something much deeper here. Nobody knew the real purpose, and nobody knew what the Rebbe was thinking. But it's simple that the Rebbe knew exactly what was happening. And when each one of us passed by, we didn't know the depth of the Kuntreisim, but the Rebbe knew that after this, there's going to be a while where we will not be able to see the Rebbe. The Rebbe will be able to see us all the time, but we will not be able to see the Rebbe. And you can imagine what went through the Rebbe's mind when he gave each and every one this Kuntreisim. As mentioned, I believe the Rebbe stood for more than 5 hours, and he gave out 8,000 copies of this Kuntreisim to men, women, and children on Purim Koton Tovshin Nun Beis. In this Kuntreisim, and we will learn the Kuntreisim inside as much as time allows. The Kuntreisim starts with the posuk V'ato tetzaveh es b'nei Yisrael. It's our parasha, so which means this week was the parasha of V'ato tetzaveh, and this week it's going to be and on Friday was Purim Koton. And the Maimed that the Rebbe gave out V'ato tetzaveh, he starts with the words V'ato tetzaveh es b'nei Yisrael. Which means, and you should command the Jewish people, and they should take and bring to you shemen zayis zoch, pure olive oil, kosis, beaten, lamoil, it should light, lahaleis neil tomit, to bring up a steady light. And the Rebbe says, v'yuduim adayukim boseh. And it's known the questions concerning this pasuk. And if you want to know how many questions the Rebbe is asking, the number is 4. And the siman is, there's going to be Pesach soon, there's going to be 4 kashas. Just for our siman, there are 4 kashas in this pasuk. What are the 4 kashas? The first kasha is in all the commandments, it says, Almighty God says to Moshe, Tzavas b'nei Yisrael, command the Jewish people. And here it says, V'ato tetzaveh, different, this is a departure from where it says all over. Why does it say over here, V'ato tetzaveh? And then the Rebbe adds, that the fact that it says V'ato tetzaveh, it's not only a difference in terminology, it's also a difference in principle. V'ato tetzaveh means that you should command, and that is questionable. Shemashma shemesha hu ha'metzaveh. What comes out, the connotation here is that Moshe is the one who is commanding. And the Rebbe is asking, Moshe is the shliach. He is not the commander. The commander is Almighty God himself. Moshe is the shliach. And why does it say, V'ato tetzaveh, you should command? That is the first question. The zweite kasha is, if you want to remember, comes to the Chlohovin, Mashekosta, V'yikchu elecho. V'yikchu elecho, they should bring to you. The oil you bring to you. Sheyoviu Hashem el Moshe. They should bring the oil to Moshe. The lecheire, arguably the Rebbe asked, Kivin she'alo asanei, they so already ahadein, lo mahutzlach lehovi es Hashem en leMoshe. Since Moshe Rabbeinu was not the one who was lighting the menorah. The menorah was lit by Yaharim, so why do you have to bring the oil not to Yaharim, but you have to bring the oil to Moshe? That is the second question. The dritte kasha is, comes to the Chlohovin, Mashekosav, Shemen, Zayzoch, Kosis Lamoil. Kosis means beaten, Lamoil to light. The Lecheire have a lelemema, Shemen lehoil. That it should be oil, lehoil to light. And it's not only that, moil is in Loshen Kodesh, in the Hebrew language, moil does not mean to light. Moil is the essence of light. The essence of light doesn't light. Here I should have said, if you want to say that it should be beaten in order, it should light, I should say kosis leho'il, to light. And lamoil does not mean that. And as mentioned, lamoil, moil is the essence of light, not the pi'ula of light, not the action of light. So this was the third shaila. The fifth kasha is, we have to understand the posuk in the posuk after that it says me'erevat baker, that the menorah would burn from evening to morning. And here it says lahalis nil tomid, a steady light. Tomid means a steady all the time. The menorah was not burning all the time. The menorah was burning from the evening till the morning. These are the four questions. The previous Rebbe explains, and here the Rebbe says in parentheses, in his known maimer that he said Purim Koton Tofreish Pezayin 1927 in Moscow. What happened in Moscow in 1927? The previous Rebbe in 1927 did not live in Moscow. The previous Rebbe lived in Leningrad, Petersburg of today. And he came to Moscow on a visit. And while the Rebbe was in Moscow, the GPU is the Russian police organization. As a matter of fact, my father, Olav Shalom, would say that in his generation, people were so scared of these words, GPU, that they never even mentioned the word. They would say Didrayesius, the three letters, not even mentioning them. And when they had to refer to the NKVD, which is for, they would say Defiresius. So the GPU called the chairman of the Jewish organization, of the Jewish community in Moscow, a Jew by the name of Aleph Lamed Fuchs. They summoned him to the offices of the GPU. And you can imagine when he got this invitation, quote unquote, the summons to come to their offices, he said goodbye to his friends, he said goodbye to his family, because you never knew if they called somebody, you never know for how long they're going to call him. As they say, as they tell the story, that a Jew says the GPU called him, hat mit dem gebeten sitzen, they asked him to sit. Is gesessen 10 Jahre, so he was sitting for 10 years. So Aleph Lamed Fuchs said goodbye to his friends, the Chaverim of the Jewish Community Council in Moscow, and to his family, because he didn't know whether he's coming back or not coming back, or when he's coming back. When he came there, they sat him down, and they asked him all sorts of questions about the previous Rebbe. They called him the Rebbe Schneerson. And they said to him, they understand that he's now in Moscow, and he's having meetings with people, and he's collecting a lot of money, and they want to know if he knows exactly what he's doing in Moscow, how much money he made, how long does he plan to be in Moscow, and so on. Loaded questions. He answered that he knows about the Rebbe Schneerson, he even knows about his father, and he knows that he conducts activities, but he wants to tell him that if he could any activities that the Rebbe Schneerson conducts is according to the law. It's not outside of the law, and so on. In terms of when he came and what he's doing and how much money he's making, if he is making money, and when he's leaving, he says, I must tell you that I don't know. Miraculously, they let him go. They let him out that night. That night, Aleph Lamed Fuchs sent a message he found one of the Rebbe's people that are close to the Rebbe, and the message, his personal message, was a very clear one. That since they called him, and since they're keeping an eye on the Rebbe, his opinion is the Rebbe should leave Moscow tonight. Not tomorrow morning. Tonight, the Rebbe should leave Moscow. But the Rebbe didn't do that. The Rebbe writes someplace that the Shnei sons are not afraid. They don't run away. The Rebbe remained in Moscow. Not only that, the same Aleph Lamed folks heard that the Rebbe is going to say a maimer on the night of Purim Koton in Moscow. So he came together with a friend, Mr. Wendel, and they came together to hear the maimer of the Rebbe. The Rebbe said the maimer with a big koch, very, very loudly and very clearly and with great enthusiasm. And in the Maimer he said, that the Jew has a right to do Teiro mitzvahs, and he doesn't have to listen to anyone who tells him not to. And this is the right of the Jew, the obligation of the Jew, the history of the Jew. The same Fuchs writes that he wanted to stay longer to hear the Maimer of the Rebbe, but he looked around and he saw many strange faces that he didn't like. They knew these were planted agents of the Gepa'u. So he left. He left in the middle of the Maimer. He also wrote that week he met with this individual called Litvakov. Litvakov was the head of the Yevsektia in Moscow. And he told him very, very strongly that they are very angry with the activities of the Rebbe Schneerson, and that they are going to take action against the activities of the Rebbe Schneerson. Now, what that meant, that this visit to Moscow precipitated the arrest 4 months later, almost to the day, of the previous Rebbe in 1927. But the decision was made when the Rebbe was in Moscow, and this is what Litvakov told Fuchs a few days later. So now we know, if we look in here, in this Maimer, and the Rebbe writes, B'ma'amorei hayodua, his known Maimer, v'kibel ayhudim shnemar b'purim koton tofreish pezayin, this is the Maimer. So in this Maimer, the Rebbe explains and he answers these questions. He answers that tzivoi tu tzave hu tzavso v'chibur. The tzave means that you should make, tzavso v'chibur means the connection and the unity. You should make the connection and the unity between Almighty God and the Jewish people. V'zeu v'yato tetzave, this is what the Pasuk says. V'yato tetzave, as b'nei Yisrael, shemeishehu mekasher u'mechaber as b'nei Yisrael imeir ein sof. That Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that makes the connection and the unity between Almighty God and the Jewish people. And then the Rebbe says, V'al-yedei shemeishe mashpia li-Yisrael, and through the fact that Moshe is the mashpia, and Moshe is the one who makes the connection, Nasle Yisrein v'hei sofer b'Moshe. Through this, there is an advantage that happens also to Moshe. That Moshe himself gets an advantage from the fact that he makes the connection between the Jewish people and Almighty God. And with this, the answer is, V'yikchu eilecho. What does V'yikchu eilecho? V'yikchu, they should eilecho to you. There's going to be an advantage here to Moshe Rabbeinu himself. The Alidei Shemeshe Yitzave es b'nei Yisrael, through the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that will command the Jewish people. V'yikasher es b'nei Yisrael imeir ein sof, and he will connect and he will bind the Jewish people with Almighty God. They will bring the Shem Zayis to Moshe, and the Rebbe says, what does it mean? V'yikru elecha, it's going to be for you, for your benefit. Sheyisifu teis v'yisrael b'Moshe. They will add an additional light to Moshe Rabbeinu. So now we have the answer also for the second question. And then the Rebbe continues. And he says, in order to understand this, the Rebbe explains to us, Moshe Rabbeinu nikra raya mehemne. That Moshe Rabbeinu is called the raya mehemne. In the Zohar, a faithful shepherd. What does raya mehemne mean? The Shnei Pirushim Boze, there are two Pirushim, two explanations as to what Raya Mehemne means. One explanation is that he is a faithful shepherd of the Jewish people. And he shepherds and he takes care of the Jewish people with great faith. That is one explanation. And the other explanation is he feeds emuno. Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who feeds the Jewish people with emuno. What does that mean? One is going to ask a question. Does Moshe Rabbeinu have to feed the Jewish people emuno? Don't they have emuno without him? Not only that, we Jews are known as ma'aminim, b'nei ma'aminim. This expression also comes from the Gemara. The Gemara in Shabbat, the Rebbe brings. We are ma'aminim, b'nei ma'aminim. We're believers, the children of believers. So if that is the case, which means that to us, emuno is something that's inborn. We were born with emuno, and our parents were born with emuno. So if that is the case, how do you reconcile that Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who feeds emuno? A Jew is born, is naturally is born with emuno. But the Rebbe answers that the emuno that we have inherently, efsher shetiyeh b'vchinas makiv. B'vchinas makiv means that it doesn't permeate the person; it's only there outwardly. However, Moshe Rabbeinu is feeding the emuno, that the emuno should not remain outwardly, but the emuno should permeate the inner being of the person. She'emuno tiyeh b'pnimiyus, with inner feeling. It says someplace, not here. There is an expression, ganvo apum machtalto, which means the Ganav, when he breaks the safe, and he wants success in breaking the safe, before the police come and arrest him, he's asking the Ben Shalom, help me. Where is the mokel for that? Wherever it says in Chassidus, Ganvu apu machtalta rachmona kalia, it says Ein Yankiv seif beroches, that you will find it in Ein Yankiv at the end of beroches. L'cheire Ein Yankiv, at the end of Veloches, Ein Yankiv in general is not a Malamokim. It's not a reference. Why? Because Ein Yankiv is all the Agadata from the Gemara. This is why you're not going to say that you're going to find it in Ein Yankiv. The Yankiv took it from the Gemara, so you say you'll find it in the Gemara on this and this stuff. Nevertheless, this is probably one of the only ones where it says that the Mother Mokim, the reference is Ein Yankiv Seif Beroches. Because if you take a Gemara in the end of Beroches, you're not going to find Ganve Apum Machtalta Rachmone Kalia. However, it was in the version in the script that the Ein Yankiv had. He had it in his script. So therefore, the reference to that is Ein Yankiv Seif Beroches. Now, what does it mean? That the Ganev, when he wants to break through the safe, and he wants to break through and get in successfully, and then take out what he wants, and then leave before the police comes. Rachmone Kalia, he's asking Almighty God for help. And the question is, this is something that's not understood. Because there's a dichotomy here. He's going to do something that's against the will of God. And so what is he doing? He says, the Bein Shalom, I want you to help me to do something that you don't want me to do. If he believes in God, he's not going to ask him to help him to do something that's against God. Then he should believe that Almighty God will give him a parnasa that should be according to the Jewish law. So how can he ask God to do something that's against God? And the answer that's brought down in Chassidus is because the emunah does not permeate the entire being of this individual. The emunah is there. That's why he's asking God. Rachmono Kali, he's asking for God's help. And he's really asking for God's help. However, he doesn't realize how transparent this is and how thin this is, that you can't ask God to help you to do something that's against him. Because if the emunah would be real, that he would really believe that there is a God, and he would believe that the Rebbe is giving everybody parnasa, then he wouldn't ask, then he would not make this prayer. Then he would ask, give me a parnasa that is a kosher one, not this one. So this is what the explanation. However, here what we are learning, that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to feed the emunah, that the emunah should not be superficial, like Bades Ganev. The emunah should be bepnimius, it should be innerly engraved into the soul of the Jew. This is what it says, that Moshe Rabbeinu zon umfarnes eso emunah. And then the Rebbe continues and he says, the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was a Raya Mehemne is the faithful shepherd. And we learn two explanations of being a Raya Mehemne. That is not only a reference to Moshe Rabbeinu himself in his generation, it's also a reference of Ispashtusa de Moshe shebechol deir v'deir. That's what it says in Tikkun Zehar, that this is a reference to the extension of Moshe in every generation, and that we know in every generation that there's Moshe Rabbeinu of that generation. Like it says that Mordechai in his day, Mordechai b'deirei k'Moshe b'deirei. And it says, the Medrash says in Esther Rabbe, the Medrash says that Mordechai in his generation was like Moshe Rabbeinu in his generation. It doesn't say that Mordechai was as great as Moshe Rabbeinu. It says, however, that Mordechai in his generation was like Moshe in his generation, which means in every generation there is a Moshe Rabbeinu. In the generation of Mordechai and Esther, there was Mordechai. And in all generations, they are the Roshei Alpha Yisrael, the Jewish leaders, that they are Shebechol Devodeh, they are strengthening the emunah in their generation. This is what the Rebbe says. Now, we still need an explanation to the third kasha. The third kasha was Kosis Lamoel. Kosis means beaten. Lamoel, it should have said arguably Kosis Lehoil, to light. And Lamoel, Moel is the essence of light that doesn't light. So it should have said Kosis Lehoil. So the Rebbe answers, why does it say Kosis Lamoel? Shall Yedei Kosis, through the fact that the Jew is beaten. Through that, he Magim Lamoel. Then he through this he reaches the very essence of light of his neshama. And the explanation is like this: that in the time of the Gzeira, when there was a decree, then that decree reached the very essence of the Jew. And since then, through the decree, he was kosis, he was broken and beaten, nizgale etzem an neshama. Through this, the etzem of the neshama is going to be revealed. As mentioned before, moel is the essence. Kosis, if a Jew is beaten and he's broken and beaten and crushed, through that he's going to reach the very essence of his neshama. And now we can understand what it says, kosis lamoel, that through the fact that he's going to be kosis, that he's going to be beaten, that is going to reach the very essence of his neshama, of the moel. Moel is the essence. The essence generally doesn't light. But here, this will reach the essence of the neshama. The kosis, the fact that he is beaten, will reach la moel, the very essence of his neshama. And the Rebbe explains that the fact that Jews are broken in Golus, that reaches the essence of the neshama. And then he says like this: they are in Golus, and in Golus they enjoy halachovo begashmius uveluchnius. Even if they are in Golus, they enjoy in Golus halchove, which means prosperity, begashmius uveluchnius. Nevertheless, even though they enjoyed the prosperity, begashmius uveluchnius in Golus, and the Rebbe doesn't say they enjoy relative prosperity. It says here clearly, כשיש להם הלכובו בגשמיס ובלוכניס, they have prosperity in Gashmias, and they have prosperity in the Luchnias. Nevertheless, they're beaten because they're in Golus. What does prosperity begashmias mean? Baruch Hashem, they have patnosa. In the olden days, so many stories that we heard about our grandparents and the great-great-grandparents. The Jewish community generally was in poverty. There wasn't enough for a piece of challah on Shabbos. And who's talking about a piece of fish on Shabbos? And who's talking a piece of meat on Shabbos? That was a luxury. If you had a little bit of bread or black bread, schwarze bread, you were happy. That this was the condition of the Jewish community. Baruch Hashem, it's not the case anymore. Every Jew has a Shabbos, as the expression goes. And he has wine, and he has challah, and he has gefilte fish, Baruch Hashem. He enjoys not only relative prosperity, he enjoys halchovo. That's halchovo begashmias. Baruch Hashem, he makes a nice living, and he has enough food. They tell the story, Rabbi say, of the Rebbe Hirschele. The Rebbe Hirschele was the Rebbe of the Sifsei Kain of the Shach on Shulchan Aruch. And he was a very, very sharp child, as you can imagine. His mother lived in poverty, but his mother would want to make sure that for Shabbos, she would have one piece of fish for each member of the family. And that wasn't easy. For that, she had to work a whole week to make sure that there's going to be one piece of fish for everybody. And she would count the pieces, and she would put them in the pot, and she would cook them. She takes a look on the pot Friday before Shabbos, and one piece is missing. Now this shows you how much attention she paid, because she wanted to be sure everybody should have one piece of fish. And there's a piece of fish missing. Now one person is not going to have fish. She realized right away that maybe Herschele knows something about it. So she calls him over, and she says, Herschele, you know, I prepared a piece of fish for every person, and I'm missing one piece. Do you know anything about it? Maybe. And he says to her, Ma, I took it, and I ate it. Why did you do that? He says, Toyameo Chaim Zochu. Those who taste it, the food of Shabbos, Chaim Zochu. As a matter of fact, this is a very, very popular expression among Polish and Hungarian Jews. They even say Toyamehi Chaim Zuchi, and they do that. They taste the macholim of Shabbos because it says something about that. That on Friday you taste the macholim of Shabbos, and they do that. It's not a minhag in Chabad, but it's a minhag by Jewish people in Poland and in Hungary and so on. So that's what he did. He says to his mother, Te'ameo Chaim Zochu, that he tasted the food of Shabbos, and through that you will merit life. So the mother says to him, Hershele, because of that you had to take the biggest piece of fish. You could have taken a smaller piece of fish. She says, Ma. After that it says, Vigam ho'ehavim dvoreho gedulo b'cholu. Those who love her words, he took gedulo means as the biggest piece. So he took the biggest piece of fish because of the love that he has for Shabbos. So there was poverty. There are stories about poverty in the house of the Rebbe Nishma Seiden. A poor man knocked on the door of the Rebbe Nishma Seiden in Lubavitch. And what he wanted was a kopke. A kopke means 1 kopek, 1 penny. And the Rebbe Nishma Seiden motioned to the Rebbetzin that he doesn't have. Now it's going to be a problem. A Jew comes in and he's asking for something, and you're going to you're going to return this Jew empty-handed? How can you do that? So, but the Rebbe motioned to the Rebbetzin that he doesn't have. Smart woman that she was, she took a piece of paper, and in that piece of paper she wrapped a piece of bread or a piece of challah, and she gave it to the poor man, so that he shouldn't leave empty-handed. The poor man took it, and there was a big smile on the face of the Rebbe Nishma Seiden. Baruch Hashem, he didn't let a Jew out of his house empty-handed. But the story tells us there wasn't a kopke in the house. The poor man didn't ask for a ruble. A ruble he would get from 100 people. He asked for 1 kopke, 1 penny. And that penny was not there. Here the Rebbe says, we are enjoying halchove, prosperity. Prosperity with everything that comes with it. Even international trips. A Jew in our generation can afford to do it, and some do. That's halchove begashmius. Halchove beruchnius. In the days of the Frierdiker Rebbe in 1927, I remember my father, Alav Shalom, talking about it. You had to send a child to shkole. Shkole means to school. And the Frierdiker Rebbe said you should go on Mesiras Nefesh and not send the child, no matter what. Do not send the child to shkole. And they kept they kept a record. How come the child didn't come to school today? What happened? So, Baruch Hashem, today, there's no question of sending the children. We have the nicest schools, the nicest yeshivas, the nicest girls' schools, Beishrifkes, and so on. Our children should want to learn as much as we giving them. The nicest buildings, the nicest schools, the finest teachers, the finest conditions. A Jew was afraid in the olden days to light the menorah outside. How would he light the menorah outside? He's going to get arrested. Today you can light the menorah inside, you can light the menorah outside, you can light the menorah publicly. You don't have to be afraid. In 1927, you couldn't do a public menorah any place in Moscow. 5 minutes later, you'd be arrested with the menorah. Baruch Hashem, Jews enjoy prosperity. You want to build a sukkah, you couldn't build a sukkah in Russia, you were afraid. And when you built a sukkah, it was Mesiras Nefesh. Because a sukkah you can't build in the basement. You have to build a sukkah outside, it was Mesiras Nefesh. As so many stories about sukkahs and Mesiras Nefesh. Today, Baruch Hashem, a Jew can build a sukkah. You go on the street, you see sukkahs. And from the side, as many sukkahs as you want. That's halchove begashmius or beruchnius. Nevertheless, says the Rebbe, that even if he has halchove and not relative prosperity, real prosperity, begashmius or beruchnius, physically and spiritually, nevertheless he's broken. Why? Because he doesn't see the Gilui Elokus in the world like it was in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. There's one thing that's bothering the Jew. He's broken. Why is he broken? There's no Gilui Elokus in the world. He doesn't see Elokus. Now, and then he says, when he thinks about what the Gemara says, the Rebbe brings some the Shalmi in the Yume in the Shtilim, where it says, "At kol mi shalei nivra Beis Hamikdash biyomov." Iskilu necherav beyomov, that anyone in whose days the Beis Hamikdash was not built, it's as if the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed in his days. So he says, Gvald, Beis Hamikdash is destroyed in my days. So he's completely beaten. Although he enjoys prosperity, not relative prosperity, full prosperity, but there's no Gilui Elokus. He doesn't see the revelation of godliness in this world. So from this he is beaten. And therefore, the fact that he is beaten, this brings Lamoil to the very essence. Not only that, he is in Golus, and he asks 3 times a day, and he wants Mashiach now. I remember the Rebbe saying, he gets up in the morning, he davens, he says, that he wants Mashiach to come. Mehera means immediately, now. But then a few hours later, he davens Mincha, Mashiach didn't come yet. He screams again, Mehera, I want the Ben Shleilam, I want Mashiach to come now, Mehera. And an hour later, he davens Ma'alev, and Mashiach is not here yet. He screams again, Mehera. So he's beaten. And because he is beaten, that brings Lamoel to the very essence of the Neshama. That is the answer to the third question. Now, we are left with one question. And that question is, that first, that it says over here, Leha'alis Neil Tomit, that there's going to be a steady light. And in the pasuk after that, it says, that the Menela burns from evening to morning. So why does it say Neil Tomit? The answer is that through the fact that the Jew is broken and he is beaten, and it reaches the essence of his neshama, that is going to bring about the building of the Beis Hamikdash, and the Menela is going to be not only the Menela that was until now, Me'erav ad Beker, the Menela is going to be a steady Menela for always, forever, for all the time. L'halis neil tomid, a steady light, an everlasting light, more than the Menela in the Beis Hamikdash, which is that's going to be our lot now when we see the Gulo Amitis V'Ashlemo. And with this, the Rebbe answers all 4 questions. And this is the Kuntreisim Rabbi that the Rebbe gave to each and every one of us, knowing that there's going to be a time, albeit much too long, where physically we will not be able to see him. He will be able to see us, but we will not be able to see him. So this is the passport that the Rebbe gave to each and every person, with a piece of lekach, to tell you, I know all about it. I'm giving you something to give you strength and inspiration for those few moments that you will not be able to see me, knowing that I promised you that this is the last generation of Golus and the first generation of Geulah. And in Yirtzeh Hashem, our generation will see the Geulah Amitis V'Ashlema with our very own eyes, Gesundheit und Freilichkeit. ובגולו דידנו, ושמחו ובטוב לבוב, ובטוב הנילה והניגלה, ולמטה מעשרות טפוחים, ובחסד ובלחמים, ותקף ומיד ממש.